If you haven't already, watch the first video we did that talks about boundary encroachments, the 4 kinds of boundary encroachments, and the 3 types of problems that they cause. So just as a quick refresher, what are the 3 problems boundary encroachments cause in a commercial real estate transaction? The first problem they cause is land title companies don't like them. So you might not be able to get the title insurance coverage you need to get the transaction to go through. The second related problem is banks don't like them, lenders don't like them. They don't like boundary encroachments. It creates extra risk for them. And the third reason is the local land use regulator, they don't like boundary encroachments either, right? So that could cause problems if you're trying to get some kind of subdivision approval or building permit as part of the transaction, that can cause issues. So there's 2 other reasons why boundary encroachments can cause problems in commercial real estate that we didn't talk about in the first video, so I wanted to cover them in this video. So here's number 4. This is the 4th reason why a boundary encroachment can cause problems in a commercial real estate transaction. And it is because unwritten rights from a long-standing encroachment can create limitations on how your parcel is used. So I want to give you an example. There is a parcel, vacant parcel, with a sewer pipe that runs underneath it. It's been there for a long, long time, maybe 100 years or 50 years. And you want to buy that parcel, and so you are in escrow. You're in the process of trying to close a transaction on that, and you get a land title survey, and the land title survey shows up, and the surveyor does his job right. He shows the sewer line going through the parcel, and the bank says, hey, wait a minute, you know, we based our willingness to give you this loan for this transaction and construction on your ability to build a building with a basement that's 18 feet deep. And you can't do that now because there's a sewer line running through here. There's probably a prescriptive easement for the sewer line. And so then you tank your whole transaction. So that's an example of how the unwritten rights related to an encroachment can cause problems in the transaction, right? So the unwritten rights related to a boundary encroachment can limit your ability to use the parcel that you are buying, right? And at times those limitations can have really serious impacts. Just one other quick example so you understand what we're saying. You got a parcel, there's a driveway or an access road, let's say, that runs over the north 30 feet of the parcel to get to a landlocked parcel, right? And that shows up on the survey, and there's probably a prescriptive right there based on the circumstances, right? You're not going to be able to do anything with that. I shouldn't say anything, but you're going to be limited in what you can do with that 30 feet, that north 30 feet of your property, right? Because now there's this prescriptive easement over it. So you might not be able to control access to that road. You certainly wouldn't be able to build over it. You can't plant nut trees on it, right? There's going to be issues there. So boundary encroachments can ripen into unwritten rights, primarily prescriptive easements, and those easements can limit your ability to do what you want with the property that you are going to buy. And not only can that take a transaction because it's going to mess your plans up for the property, but it maybe also tank the transaction because the bank is basing the loan on a particular proposed use of the property that can happen once the boundary encroachment is discovered. Okay, the 5th reason why boundary encroachments cause problems in real estate transactions is because they could potentially reduce the buildable envelope. So if you have a long-standing boundary encroachment, you can have a prescriptive easement or even adverse possession where somebody takes what we call fee ownership of the underlying property, and then you end up with less land than you think. And this doesn't happen as often as the type of problems I described earlier with the prescriptive easement, but it does occasionally happen. So let me give you an example. This is a true story I've talked about in some of our other videos. Somebody called. They had a lot over in San Francisco. The architect designed a building, 3 or 4 story building on this lot that was shown as 50 foot wide on the tax assessor map. But when the contractor went to go build the building, he pulled a tape measure between the 2 buildings, and he had, I don't know, it was like 48.5 feet. Okay, so he was 1.5 feet short. The building was designed on 0 setback. Bad news, your building isn't going to fit, right? That's going to cause major problems, right? And one key thing to remember is a small change in the buildable footprint of a parcel can have a large impact on the value of the parcel, and people are going to care about that, right? Potential buyers are going to care about that. Lenders are going to care about that. And if you go back to that example I gave, so if you had let's just make the math easy. If you had 2 feet less buildable envelope than you thought because of an encroachment over 100 feet, we've got 200 square feet right, of a building that we aren't going to get that we thought we were going to get. Okay, now we had a 4-story building, so you multiply by that by 4. Now you got an 800 square foot difference, right? In San Francisco, 800 square feet is worth a lot of money. Right? Not only that, but there's other kind of ripple effects that can happen. So, for example, your fire escape may not work, or your elevator may not work in the building based on you having a smaller buildable footprint than you thought. I had another situation came up with a client not too long ago. He's worried about potential encroachments because if he's too close to the neighboring building, then he has to build a exterior wall with a higher fire rating, and that's way more expensive for the type of construction he's doing. So these kinds of changes matter, right? And so that's another reason why boundary encroachments can cause problems in commercial real estate transactions, because depending on the type of encroachment, they might change the buildable area of the parcel, and especially on a small, compact urban lot where building densities are high, that can be a big deal. It can be a big problem. So what do you do to avoid these 5 problems that we talked about with boundary encroachments? Get a survey before you buy and make sure that there aren't encroachments. Set monuments, property corner monuments, and make sure that your neighbors don't put stuff on your property. Like, those are the 3 basic rules. So there you go. Now you know a little bit more about boundary encroachments and the kinds of problems they cause in commercial real estate transactions.